Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering cholesterol synthesis. As always, we have a game plan, and so today we're going to be covering mevalonate synthesis, mevalonate to isoprenes, isoprenes to squalene, squalene to cholesterol, and cholesterol regulation as well. You don't have to stay for cholesterol regulation if you don't want to, but the four steps we are covering will be focused on making cholesterol. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so our first step, we're going to be making mevalonate. So this is done by combining two molecules of acetyl-CoA. So we're going to condense them. So it's condensation reaction, and this is going to form acetoacetyl-CoA. This is catalyzed by thiolase, and you're going to remove a coenzyme thioester bond out of it. The next step is to take our acetoacetyl-CoA. Oh, that's a mouthful. Acetoacetyl-CoA, and we're going to condense it with another molecule of acetyl-CoA. And this is going to be catalyzed by HMG CoA synthase. We're going to remove a molecule of coenzyme with that thioester link as well during that reaction to give us a yielding product of beta hydroxy beta methyl glutarol CoA, also known as HMG CoA. Okay, so this point on, after this step, so once we go from HMG CoA to the next product, that product is irreversible. So that step is committing to cholesterol synthesis. So before, from acetyl CoA to acetoacetyl CoA to HMG CoA, those steps are reversible. So those, at that point, we can still go back to ketogenesis. If you don't know what ketogenesis is, I'll try to cover it another time. But basically, this point on is pretty much similar to ketogenesis. After that, it's going to change with the enzyme. So yeah, so at that point now we have HMG CoA. Okay, so from HMG CoA, we're going to catalyze this reaction with HMG CoA reductase. We're going to oxidize two molecules of NADPH to 2-NADP+, and we're going to remove a coenzyme A, and this is going to give us mevalonate. Okay, so just a little bit of notes. You can still convert HMG CoA to ketogenesis. You're basically just going to use HMG CoA lyase, and that kind of makes acetoacetate instead of mevalonate. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So the HMG CoA reductase, that enzyme that's used to reduce HMG CoA to mevalonate, is the irreversible step. So at this point, you cannot go back and do ketogenesis. You have to go forwards and make cholesterol. So this enzyme, HMG CoA reductase, is actually the primary target for regulation. So there's going to be a lot of inhibition or activation to either, make less of cholesterol or continue to make more of cholesterol. So that's pretty much the first step of our game plan here. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to cover how to make the activated isoprenes from mevalonate. So from here, we're going to take mevalonate and we're going to phosphorylate it 3 times. So it's 3 successful phosphorylations. I'm not sure if you want to know each of the phosphorylation steps. I'll do like a very brief recap. If not, then you can just skip, because all you need to know is that mevalonate is successfully phosphorylated 3 times, and from there's a decarboxylation, and then you can split the two, or basically you can split the compound into 2 activated isoprenes. It's just an isomerization reaction, so you just get 2 forms of the same, it's the same molecule but different forms because it's just isomerization. And then from there, you get your 2 activated isoprenes. Okay, speed run overview. Mevalonate is phosphorylated by mevalonate 5 phosphotransferase at carbon 5. So then after that, you're going to get 5-phosphomevalonate. That's going to be phosphorylated again by phosphomevalonate kinase, and that's just going to phosphorylate again, like on the second phosphate group. So you're not going to be adding to another carbon. You're just continuing down the line. After that, your molecule is going to end up being 5-pyrophosphomevalonate. That's basically meaning that you have 2 phosphate groups. That's why pyrophosphate is just 2 phosphate groups. And then after that, so at this point you have a net ATP of -2. You're going to phosphorylate it again by pyrophosphomevalonate decarboxylase. This is going to add a phosphate group onto carbon 3, and then it's going to decarboxylate it. So it's just basically going to add the phosphate group, it's going to remove the phosphate group right away, and then you're going to take out that carboxyl group at the very end of your mevalonate, which was basically carbon 1. It's not really mevalonate anymore, but you know what I mean. And so this happens in an intermediate step. So then you're going to get your activated isoprenes, dimethylallyl pyrophosphate, and delta cubed or delta 3 isoprenenyl pyrophosphate. Okay, so at this point, we're pretty much getting real here because now we're going to go from the two activated isoprenes to squalene. So we're going to take our dimethylallyl pyrophosphate and our delta 3 isopentenyl pyrophosphate, and they're going to condense together with the enzyme prenyl transferase. It's going to do a head to tail condensation reaction. So one of the pyrophosphates is going to be released out of the reaction, and we're going to end up with geranyl pyrophosphate. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. I feel like I'm saying general, like attention, but that's not where I'm going for. So geranyl or geranyl, I'm going to say geranyl pyrophosphate. Okay, so that's what we have right now. That's our precursor. So now we're going to add in delta 3 isopentenyl pyrophosphate. So isopentenyl pyrophosphate we're going to add in one more time, and we're going to displace another pyrophosphate group, and then we're going to catalyze this reaction by prenyl transferase once again through a head-to-tail condensation reaction, and we're going to end up with farnesyl pyrophosphate. Sorry, I meant farnesyl. Oh my god, pyrophosphate. The FP. We're gonna call it the FP, okay? Because I cannot deal with this right now. It's almost 1 in the morning. I need to go to bed. So we're gonna take FP. We're gonna combine it with another FP, and we're gonna add the enzyme squalene synthase to basically get to squalene. This enzyme is a head-to-head reaction. You also need to oxidize NADPH to NAD+, and you're also going to displace two pyrophosphates once more. And that's pretty much it. Now we got the squalene, and now we can do the fun part, which is get into cholesterol. Okay, so now we're going to go from squalene to cholesterol. There's a bunch of huge steps in here that I don't really want to go over too much, so I'm going to go through them really quickly. But from squalene to cholesterol, we're just going to be closing a lot of rings. So if you remember from organic chemistry 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever part of the course that you talk about ring closings, this is where this all comes in. So from squalene to squalene 2,3 epoxide, I did not draw the structure here. The enzyme is squalene monooxygenase. We're going to take O2 NADPH, we're going to oxidize them to H2O and NAD+. So from squalene 2,3 epoxide, we're going to use the enzyme cyclase to get to our intermediate, and from that intermediate to lanosterol, it's cyclase again, and we're going to add in a proton and take out a proton from these steps. We're just going to be not opening up, we're going to be closing these rings. And then from lanosterol to cholesterol, we're going to perform 3 demethylations. There's no enzymes that I've written in here because there's a lot of reactions here. 3 demethylations as well as a double bond reduction. We're going to convert that alkene to its most reduced form, which is that alkyl chain. And yeah, and now we have cholesterol from lanosterol to cholesterol. A lot of reactions. I don't need to record them, but yeah, we basically made cholesterol. Yay! Okay, so a little bit on cholesterol regulation. Acetyl-CoA to HMG-CoA. So at this point, you can, like I said earlier, you can inhibit or activate HMG-CoA reductase just because that's the target, because that is basically the committing step. It's like, when you're committing to a relationship, that's pretty much what HMG CoA reductase does. It basically commits you to cholesterol. So you're stuck for the rest of your life. Like. Anyways, so insulin activates cholesterol synthesis, glucagon um, inhibits it. So does, I know I put ATP concentration. I did not put an increase or decrease sign, but it's actually the decrease of ATP inhibits HMG CoA reductase. That's so embarrassing. Oh my gosh. For the ATP one, think about it like this. If you have less ATP, you won't be able to successfully phosphorylate mevalonate 3 times, which means that you won't be able to get your activated isoprenes, which means you can't get to squalene, which means you can't get to cholesterol. So that's why decreasing concentrations of ATP would be inhibiting HMG CoA reductase. Not because there's really any ATP in that step, because you're not going to go from HMG CoA to mevalonate with ATP. That's an NADPH dependent reaction. It's just the fact that you're going to be using ATP so many times afterwards from the activated isoprenes to squalene. Another thing is from cholesterol to cholesterol esters, ACAT, that's also like activated. Oxysterol, I have no idea what that is. I'm so sorry. I wrote it from my notes. Apparently, it stimulates proteolysis of HMG CoA reductase. But yeah, so that inhibits LDL receptor mediated endocytosis uptake, and it does inhibit HMG CoA reductase. So that's one thing in mind as well. Another thing on cholesterol is that your intracellular cholesterol can be regulated really easily, such as like in the diagram it says cholesterol internalized. I meant to say intracellular, because that basically the ACAT can move that into cholesterol esters. You can reduce or inhibit HMG CoA reductase, which means you're going to have less cholesterol synthesis because you're not going to be committing to that step. You can also decrease the synthesis of LDL receptors, which means you won't be taking up LDL, like you won't be able to transfer cholesterol into the cell. So your intracellular cholesterol is going to be regulated really well, but when you're eating so much, like when you're having a lot of dietary cholesterol, that's the problem, because what are you going to do with all that extracellular cholesterol when you have been regulating all your intracellular stuff really well? You're just basically you're going to be stuck, because if let's say I'm stuck at a red light and all this stuff is going like the other cars are going because it's green on the other like the other side of the intersection, I can't go anywhere, right? So I'm going to be stopped, and then let's say there's traffic, and then it's just going to be a whole mess, right? So that's why regulating dietary cholesterol is so important, because your body's already regulating your intracellular cholesterol. So, yeah, that's it. That's pretty much cholesterol biosynthesis or synthesis and regulation. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to be covering eicosanoids soon because I have to cover it for my finals. So, yeah, thank you so much.